Right guys, quick video on setting up exploding barrels in UDK using Kismet. So I'm just going to set this to a UT game so we can get the weapons on the go. And first thing we're going to do is bring in our barrel. So open the content browser, look for static meshes, and we'll find a barrel. And we can just drag and drop that in, but we do want to replace it with an interp actor eventually, so we'll just right click, do that now. Replace with interp actor. We need to make sure that its collision's on, so we'll press F4 to open up its properties, come down to collision, change collide, no collision to collide, block all, and that should do for that. Next thing we need to do is grab ourselves a particle system for an explosion, which we're going to toggle on and off using Kismet. So back to the content browser, looking for particle systems, and we're going to look for explosion. We'll just grab the general explosion and we'll drop that in. Just going to put real time on now. We need to see whether this thing's firing in the right direction, and if you can see that there's a little arrow that points off the side of the particle system which indicates the direction that it's going to go in. But if you want to test it, we can just press F4 to open up its properties, and we can turn auto activate on and off, and you can see that it's actually firing this way. So I'm just going to rotate this around 90 degrees and I'll test it again by turning, oh, that's better. Okay, maybe scale it up a little bit. Not a very big explosion at the minute. And then auto activate. Yeah, alright, that'll do. Right, so we've got our particle system in, and we've got our barrel there. I don't think we need to connect it to the barrel for this one, because we're just going to do a straight up explosion. I'm not going to bother doing like it sets on fire and then after a bit of time it explodes, so we'll just leave that where it is. Maybe just put it off to the side of the barrel a little bit just so we can easily get to it. We can always move it back later. Right, so we're pretty much good to go. We're going to set this up in Kismet now. So we'll open up Kismet. I'll put this over here, and we're going to use the event based on this barrel taking damage. So we'll select it in the level, right click in Kismet. We're going to use a new event using the interp actor that we have selected, and we're going to click on take damage. If we have a look at this node to start with, we'll leave the max trigger count at 1, so that's fine, but we are going to change the damage threshold, which is basically how much damage needs to be caused to trigger this event. And I'm just going to set it to 10 for now, because it's going to be a low amount of damage to trigger this event. Alright, next thing that we need to do is we need to destroy this barrel. So we're going to go and right click, new action, actor, destroy, and we'll take the out from our trigger, plug it into destroy, and we need to get the object which is our barrel as an object variable on the target. So we'll make sure we've got our barrel selected and right click where it says target, and we're going to create a new object var or variable using the interp actor 0. And just by doing that, if we jump in and press play, and I go and shoot the barrel, it destroys it and it's gone. But we haven't turned on the particle system, and it certainly doesn't cause any damage yet, so we'll do that next. So next thing to do would be to toggle a particle system. For a toggle, you can just hold T on the keyboard and click, and that will add a toggle, or you can just go right click, new action, toggle, and there's different types of toggle that you can use here. We're just going to use a normal toggle. So from the out from destroy, we're going to turn on the particle system, so we need to go and select our particle system. There it is. And on the target, we're going to do another right click and create a new object variable using the emitter 0. Alright, so let's have a look and see how that works. And this time when we shoot the barrel, it disappears and it explodes, but again, this isn't going to cause any damage yet. We can stand right next to this thing and nothing happens. So we're going to create a physics volume to cause damage. I like using the sphere volume for this, but you can use whatever you like. I'm going to create a sphere volume, just make sure it goes around the barrel. I could maybe turn it into more of a spherical shape by just right clicking on the sphere brush over here, and then changing the sphere extrapolation to 2, and it becomes more spherical rather than the kind of diamond type shape that we had. We can scale it up to, oops, that's the barrel. We can scale the brush up to determine how much of a radius this explosion will have, and that'll do for me. You can use a square or a cylinder if you like. It really doesn't matter what kind of shape you use. I'm just going for the circle. Alright, so we're going to create a volume next. So we're going to come down to volumes here on the left hand side. We're going to click on that, and we're going to find a dynamic physics volume. And if we move our brush out the way, you can see that the dynamic physics volume has been left behind. Alright, so we need to turn this dynamic physics volume into something that can cause damage to the player. So we'll select it and press F4 to open up its properties. And we're just going to have a look in the physics volume, and we're going to turn on pain causing. And we're going to set the amount of damage that it causes. So let's say 1000 damage per second to make sure that it does destroy the enemy or the player. And damage type we're going to set to something explosive, so we'll choose a grenade. And the next thing we need to do is actually get this thing to turn on and off. Now, if we press F4 and look at its properties again, if you look at the first property, we want to turn enabled off, because if we leave enabled on, as soon as we walk into it, it's going to kill the player. Not ideal. We just want it to turn on when the explosion occurs. So we want to make sure that enabled is turned off to start with, which we're going to do now. So we turn enabled off. Next thing is to go back to Kismet, and we're going to toggle this dynamic physics volume at the same time that we toggle the explosion, but we do need to turn it back off again. So on our toggle, make sure we've got our dynamic physics volume selected. I'm going to right click on the target again and create a new object var using the dynamic physics volume 0. So that's going to turn it on, right? And just to test that, we'll jump in the level and you can have a look. So now we can run up to the dynamic physics volume. It won't cause any damage until we trigger the event, at which point it causes damage. But problem is, it's still turned on. If I can just find where that barrel was, which was there, still causing damage. So we need to turn it back off again, and that's as simple as just using another toggle. So we'll get Kismet back open. I'm going to hold T to put a toggle on, but in between these we're going to put a delay. So we're going to hold D on the keyboard, and then left click. It's going to create a delay. I'm going to take that out and plug it into the start, and then the finished into turn off. We could maybe make the delay 0.5 seconds perhaps, and the target is going to be our dynamic physics volume. So now the Kismet sequence says as soon as this interactor takes damage, it's going to destroy the interactor, it's going to turn on the explosion emitter, and it's going to turn on the dynamic physics volume, and then after 0.5 seconds it's going to turn off the dynamic physics volume. Let's have a look, see if it works. In fact, I'm going to put something down just so I don't lose the barrel. Where's my content browser? There it is. Just going to put an object down. That'll be fine. Just so I know where I need to go. Right, so we can walk up to it. No damage is caused. We can get close to it and shoot it, and we get destroyed. Just realised that this isn't on the screen, so I'm going to do that again. There we go. Alright, so we can walk up to it again. No damage is caused until we activate the event, at which point damage is caused, and then we can wander back over to that area, and this time, because we've toggled the dynamic physics volume off, no damage is caused. Alright, so that's it. Exploding barrels in Kismet. Hope it's been useful for you guys. I'll see you next time.